All right, Tom, as soon as you see people pop into the people in conference now, you can go ahead with your intro, okay?
All right.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Tom Lennard, the moderator for tonight's call, and we're excited to have you participate in this discussion about challenges facing working families. The event's being hosted by Hello? Sorry about that. The event's being hosted by State Senator Jim Ananich, and will feature a panel of experts. We'll discuss some suggested solutions to these issues, but we really want to hear actual stories from you about how the economy is impacting your life. The way it'll work is that we'll briefly introduce our panelists, then we'll open up for some questions. If you want to ask a question, this is very important, remember to press 0 on your phone, and an operator will be with you to get your question. In addition, if you'd like to provide an email address where you can follow up with more information, or for some reason you have to drop off the call a little bit early and want to make sure we can follow up, you may press the number 7 at any point throughout the call. So please just be conscious of others wanting to be heard and try to keep the questions short and on topic. And if you have a question we run out of time to address it on the call, we'll still do our best to follow up with you afterwards. We're going to try to ask a couple of short poll questions for participants and should be able to announce the results right on the call, so that should be interesting. So let's get started with our introductions of the panelists. And remember, if you have a question at any time starting right now, you can press 0. And if you'd like to provide an email address, you can press 7, and we can get that from you. So thanks again for being on the call. And we're going to start with State Senator Jim Ananich.
Hello, and thank you, everyone, for being on the call and participating in this tonight. You know, we know that the economy is starting to get better, but there are a number of ways that working families are still struggling. Problems like wages seem to be stuck, not enough good-paying jobs, rising debt, whether it be personal debt or debt for education, whether it be their children's education or their own, to no access to paid sick days, and many, many other ways that families are struggling. And we sure have a long way to go to make sure the economy works for everyone. But more importantly, tonight we'll hear from some panelists about some efforts to address these concerns. Most of all, I want to hear from you about your experiences and your ideas. So please feel free to hit 0 to weigh in or to submit your question. Again, thank you very much for being on the call.
So we're actually going to jump right in with a short poll question so we can get a better feel for what are some of the concerns and how people on the call are feeling. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how secure do you feel with your family's current financial situation, with 1 being very insecure and 5 being very secure about your personal family's financial situation? And again, at any time during the call, you can press the number 0, and an operator will be with you to get you on to ask whatever question or share a story or share some kind of experience that you want other folks to hear and see if maybe there are similar experiences out there as well. And the number 7, if you hit that, we can make sure to get your email address as a way to follow up with you. So continuing on with the introductions now, we're going to also have on the call Danielle Atkinson of Mothering Justice. Danielle?
Yeah, thanks so much. It's great to join you all. My name again is Danielle Atkinson, and I'm the director of Mothering Justice. Mothering Justice works on issues of financial stabilities for mothers here in Michigan, and what we do is we have conversations in the homes of our members with their friends, talking about values and how our government is being either receptive or not receptive to our voices and the needs that we have. We are part of the group that was responsible for increasing the minimum wage, and we are working on increasing access to paid sick days for every worker, family medical leave insurance for every family, affordable child care, and elimination of wage theft. So we would love for everyone to join us on our campaigns and are really excited about participating in the call tonight.
Great, thanks. Thanks again, Danielle, for participating. And I just wanted to mention that first poll question that we had a few responses. I want to make sure people have more time. On a scale of 1 to 5, how secure do you feel with your family's current financial situation? So that can be wages that you're making or access to jobs or debt, all sorts of things that affect your family, with 1 being very insecure about how your personal situation is and 5 being very secure with that situation. So again, that's between 1 and 5, how financially secure. Again, I just want to remind folks, please hit 0 at any point, during the discussion or during the questions, during the discussion, so that you can be entered into the operator so you can share your story or ask your question. So now another panelist that we have with us tonight is Peter Ruark from the Michigan League for Public Policy. So Peter, could you tell us a little bit about your group?
Certainly. Thanks, Tom. My name is Peter Ruark. I'm with the Michigan League for Public Policy, and we are a nonprofit organization located in Lansing. We advocate for state policy in Michigan that benefits low-income people and helps ensure prosperity for all. We're in favor of a system in Michigan whereby people can thrive and survive. So we do work on safety net issues, but we also do work on wage issues, state budget, and our real interest is helping work to pay. Work is the best way out of poverty, the best way out of financial hardship. I think most people can agree with that ideally everybody would have a job, not only a job, but a job that pays enough to meet their needs. There are times when jobs are not available. Our state has had a really rough time in the past 10 years, as everybody knows. There are also times when people have jobs that are not helping them meet their needs. Either they don't get paid enough, they have schedules that are very chaotic, maybe they are in danger of losing their jobs if they have to take time off to care for a sick child, for example. If they are unemployed, there needs to be a safety net there for them until they can find work. That's the kind of thing we're interested in, and that's the kind of thing I look forward to speaking with all of you about this evening.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate that. Wanted to give a quick update from the first poll question that we had and some results that are already coming in. That poll question was about the people's financial security personally for them. There was 43% of the folks on the call who felt that they are very insecure about their own personal situation. 39% were kind of right in the middle, and then only 5% actually that felt very, very secure about their situation. So that just goes to kind of what we're all hearing from the speakers, is that people are still not feeling comfortable with the economy. So that was interesting to get those poll results. Again, please hit 0 if you have any questions, want to share a story, or just want to weigh in at all. The number 0 on your phone, and we'll get an operator to get you right on there. And again, 7 is the number that you hit if for some reason you have to drop off early, but maybe you'd like to find out some additional information about these topics. That's the number 0 for a question, 7 for leaving your email address with someone. And our final panelist tonight is Ross Yednock from the Community Economic Development Association of Michigan. And Ross, can you tell us a little bit about what you work on?
Yes, again, my name is Ross, and I am with CEDM, the Community Economic Development Association of Michigan. We're a statewide nonprofit, and our members work on a whole host of issues supporting groups that are revitalizing communities across the state. Many are doing affordable housing, some are doing downtown development and supporting very small businesses. And I work in a realm that does work around supporting financial empowerment efforts, or what's also known as asset building policy. I am the director of the Michigan Economic Impact Coalition. It's a coalition of free income tax preparation assistance services and other organizations that are helping people achieve greater self-sufficiency through savings and building assets. The poll question you just talked about resonates with a lot of the research that we've done and support, because we are working on policies that are really helping people create wealth and build some financial self-sufficiency through the creation of assets. And when you look at numbers across the state, you're looking at about 1 out of every 4 households is living in asset poverty, and 2 out of every 5 are living in liquid asset poverty, and that means they don't have enough financial resources to fall back on should there be a disruption in their income. So we work on policies that help address that issue, and I'm, like Peter and Danielle, happy to be here and happy to be part of this conversation.
Thanks, Ross. I appreciate that. And we're actually going to jump into a question now. I just want to remind folks, 0 is the number that you hit if you'd like to jump in and share a story, or if you have a particular question for a particular panelist. And we're going to start out with our question from Gary from Flint has a question. Gary, you're on the call.
Yes. My question is, it's kind of a double question. The infrastructure in Flint and we'll say Michigan in general is very intolerable to a lot of safety people. It's just the bridges cannot withstand some of the weight that's with these heavy trucks going over them. The sewer systems are bad. The water system is getting terrible. And there's a lot of times where we don't get a right to vote on jobs that should be done, like the potholes in the streets, and we didn't even get the right to vote whether we want to drink water out of the Flint River. Sir, I'm 59 years old, and I've known what's been in that Flint River for many, many years. They've even found stolen cars in there, okay? And then the mayor of Flint, Mr. Walling, says it's okay to drink the water. And then every other month or so around the Flint area, they tell us, well, we didn't put enough chlorine in the water. You're going to have to boil your water. Don't even wash your clothes. Don't even wash your body with it. The water is stagnant. Now, why couldn't they have just waited 2 or 3 more months, keep getting the water from Detroit, which comes right out of the clean Lake Huron, and then do the switch when they will put this new pipeline through there? That's my question, sir.
Thank you very much, Gary. And I'll take all aspects of it. I mean, you first talked about the infrastructure, in particularly in Flint, but across the state, and I think it's, like as Gary said, it's an issue all over the state. The roads are in terrible condition, costing, especially individuals with less reliable transportation. Older cars are having an even tougher time on those potholes, and you're seeing more and more damage. And you see people having to make a decision about whether they can improve, whether they can fix their car, which allows them to go to work and and better themselves, or the damage sometimes is so bad that they have to not be able to fix their car because they can't afford it. The same condition with the bridges. Obviously, we're having drinking water issues, which we're looking into. My office is taking a look at this to see if there's better ways to make sure that this doesn't happen. For those that are less familiar, we're seeing E. coli breakouts. We've seen it a number of times in the last few months, where people have to boil water before they can drink it. Now, specifically, why Flint chose to go to the drinking water using the Flint River before the Carigandi Water Authority was done is probably a question should be directed more directly to the emergency manager, who Governor Snyder put in about a year and a half ago. Those decisions are made by him. The mayor and the city council have some oversight, but less of the decisions are made by them. They're often the ones who are out front communicating with the citizens, but those decisions are made by the emergency manager. Now, I know those are not decisions that were made at the state level. They're made locally. I think it is a concern. I live in the city of Flint as well, and there's definitely a difference in the quality of what people are drinking. There's a distinct smell at times that was different than before. We are reaching out to the Department of Environmental Quality to determine, make sure that there's, we're trying to do everything we can on our end to make sure this issue is resolved as quickly as possible. And I think it's a very good and important question, because as people are struggling to make ends meet and to pay their bills, especially with water bills as high as they are in the city, you want to make sure that when someone's paying for water, as is a basic necessity for everyone, that they're actually getting clean and reliable and drinkable water. We need to make sure we continue to work on that. It's a very good question, Gary, and I'll continue to work on that issue.
And I think it really speaks to the connectivity or the interconnectivity of these issues about financial stability and infrastructure, because, if we are taking care of our state, if we're investing in things like infrastructure, not only are we taking care of the things that we need just to get to work and get around, but we're providing jobs. And the federal government has really put in money to train people around construction jobs. So we have an opportunity here to put people back to work and take care of our state. So you really need to, Gary, make your voice heard that these are things that you believe need to be invested in, and that they will be job creators for our state.
Thanks, Danielle, for adding that in. Just want to remind people we have a few more questions now. We've got a few more poll questions. We're having a great discussion, but just please hit 0 if you'd like to share your story or you'd like to ask a question. And again, 7 if you would like to leave an email if you have to drop off early and want to make sure that we can follow up with you. So now we're going to go to Rosie, who has a question about jobs and qualifications and things like that.
Oh, yes. Hello. I was calling about what could be done with when in the job, in the workplace. When you're going to school and you're trying to get a master's or whatever, and you go to a different job, say you go to a job that's not in that particular field or whatever, and just a lesser job, just to have a job to earn, to earn a living, and then you're always continually told that you're overqualified, so you don't get hired. And I was wondering, what kind of thoughts you had about that, or if something like that can be done, or whatever. What can you do, or what's your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. Yeah. That's a great question, Rosie. Thanks for taking the time to share that. And I think I don't know if Peter has some thoughts. If you want to take a first crack at that question in terms of job qualifications and what you've seen.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Rose, you said your name was?
Rosie. Yep.
Rosie, yeah. Rose, one thing you said that really sticks in my craw is when potential employers are saying that you are overqualified, and they're saying that to you personally?
Asking for him.
What's that?
I said I was asking for my son.
Oh, okay. And so saying that he is overqualified.
Yeah, how you're going to school, okay, and then when
right.
And they're saying, well, we're hiring at this place, that place, so you're trying to get a job,
that he's
whatever,
overqualified. That sticks in my craw a little bit, because what the potential employer is basically doing is throwing the ball back onto the applicant's court and saying, you're doing something wrong, you're overqualified. What I hear when I hear an employer say you are overqualified is basically the job that they're offering doesn't pay very much, and they're afraid that, with your credentials you'll want more. That's a characteristic of the employer, not the applicant who has, played by the rules, acted in good faith, tried to get a credential that would help him get a job. So I really have a problem with that term overqualified being used by an employer. What happens, sometimes there are degrees that are granted that don't quite match the job market. Now, if they're saying your son is overqualified, what it sounds like is he has the skills that they're looking for. Do you mind if I ask, is that the case? He has the skills that they are looking for, but they say that he, in fact, has too many skills, so he'll want to be paid more? Okay.
Yes.
Well, one thing that we can get from that is it sounds like he has skills that are in demand. And what I'm hearing, what this sounds like to me is that these businesses that are saying overqualified, they want workers, but they don't want to pay them what they're worth. I mean, maybe I'm being a little inflammatory, but that is a big problem, is that there are skills that are in demand, and employers don't want to pay for those skills. Can I ask what degree he got?
A master's in criminal psychology.
Okay. And so that.
But he's already worked in the field of mental health for like 10 years or more.
Well, I would think that there would be some jobs out there. And it's is this from a Michigan?
Yes, these are Michigan. jobs and things, and then they like call him for an interview or whatever, and then when he gets there, they say, oh, well, you know, we looked at your application and your resume, and we actually just feel you're overqualified.
Yeah. Rosie, this is Tom. This is Tom again. I know that's, you know, your son's situation is probably a classic example of what a lot of stories that we've heard, you know, in different offices about people that are really they're doing everything that they're supposed to do, and yet they're still not, the economy is still not working for them. That's what's so frustrating with this. I think Peter makes some really good points. And, you know, we continue to try to follow up with you after this, and I'm sure it's a story that's shared by a lot of the other folks on the call. So we want to make sure that we've got lots of great questions and lots of folks who are waiting, so I want to make sure we have time for that. And also just to remind people, please hit 0 if you would like to ask a question or share your story, and we'll do our best to get to everybody in a kind of a timely way, because there's lots of interest on these issues. Again, 0 is the number that you hit to ask a question. And now we're actually going to jump in with Sally from Flint, who has a question that she would like to add to the conversation. So, Sally, are you there with us?
Yes, I am. My question is more to do with the Governor Snyder. I do vote for James Andernick every time he runs for anything, and so does my whole family. I have a family of 5, and everybody votes for him. We all like him. I just want to put that in there. But what I wanted to question was Governor Snyder, the way that he is putting so many taxes on the retirees and trying to take money from their pensions and put taxes on that. I personally am a person that has worked 25 years in Flint Community Schools, and I am on a pension now, but he is trying to take money away from that and take money away from the schools. He's also taken so much money away from the schools. Now, I do know that he gave $1 billion to the schools, but he also took it back. And on his ads, I see that he says that he gave $1 billion to the school, but he doesn't tell that he took it back. And I was in the schools when it happened, and I know that what the schools went without because we lost that money. And I just don't think that he is really about the people in Michigan. I don't think he really cares about the people. I think he cares about his own people. Now, I did hear the one commercial where they said one of his people makes $330,000 a year, but yet he can't give the $1 billion to the schools. You know, he took it from the schools, and
those are great. Those are really great points. And I think that what you mentioned in terms of pensions is something that a lot of people are dealing with. It's basically just having less money in their pockets to be able to contribute to the economy. So I think those are great questions. I wanted to make sure that we had time. I think that maybe Senator Andernick, if you'd like to take the first crack at that, and then other folks maybe jump in, because it really does impact all these different issues are very connected. So thanks. That's a great question, Sally. That's a really good point.
It was a tremendous question, and I really appreciate the support, Sally, and I appreciate the work that you did in the Flint schools. You know, I was a former teacher there, and there was a lot of dedicated people, and there are a lot of dedicated people that are really trying to help students there and all across the state in that important field. And you know, first at the pension tax. You know, one of the things the reason I didn't support the pension tax is because, you know, folks played by the rules. You're going to hear a lot of that. You've heard other panelists talk about that. They played by the rules, and the rules were changed after they spent, you know, decades working and then putting money away, and then to have the rug pulled out from underneath them I think is something that's not the way we do things here in Michigan. And I think that's some of the reason why the economy has been so much slower to rebound here in Michigan than it is in other states, because the money goes right. That money was going right into the economy, and back into to the neighborhood market or the hardware store and things of that nature. Now it's being sent to Lansing, and they can. I'm a big believer that the public has a better understanding of what to do with their tax dollars than the governor does. And the cuts to schools, I mean, that's been devastating. And, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on now because of the campaign, but, you know, it's really easy to go back and see. There was a half a $1 billion surplus in the school aid fund when I started in 2011. and they cut it over $1 billion, about $470 per student, at least on the low end, the first year, and they've come nowhere near replacing that. So there's a lot of discussion about schools and the drastic cuts that we saw the first few years, and there has been small amounts of money put back, but the cuts were so deep that they're nowhere near replacing them, and it's very devastating to schools, and I think it's very devastating to those folks that played by the rules also.
That's a great point. Ross, I know that you'd mentioned that you work on some issues in terms of asset building, and obviously this issue of pension taxes and people's savings and a lot of that are all intertwined. Do you want to weigh in at all in terms of some of the issues that you work on and what's related to some of Sally's question?
Well, and I'll just echo what the senator said. This past year, I worked with a whole coalition of folks that were helping people file their taxes at no cost. It's a great program. Most people earning $55,000 or below are eligible for it, and that was one of the things that we saw quite a bit with the clients coming in, that they were, taken aback with the impact of the pension tax and how that impacted their tax returns, as well as the earned income tax credit. The state used to provide a much larger state earned income tax credit, and that was cut recently, and we've seen the negative effects of that, as well as the property tax cuts, all of which really hit the lower income populations, but also those who weren't necessarily lower income, but just on the threshold there, just playing by the rules, trying to get by, and took this hit. So I'm not going to get into the politics of these decisions, but we have seen those impacts, and that's one of the things we are working on, is trying to reinstate the earned income tax credit and try to mitigate some of those cuts and bring back some of the tax breaks that people had under the old system that were taken away under this the sweeping changes that were passed a few years ago.
That's really great. I want to, at this point, remind everybody again, please hit 0 if you'd like to ask a question or if you'd like to weigh in and share some stories about the economic situation for you or any issues that you're dealing with. So that's the number 0. If you can hit that, we'll make sure to try to get you in the call. Number 7, if for some reason you'd like to share your email to follow up, or if you have to get off the call early and want to make sure that you can get more information. Now, we're going to jump into another poll question right now to get some people's responses, and we can share the responses the results right on the call later on. So this question is going to be about an issue that Danielle brought up earlier in terms of paid sick days. And that question is, do you support or oppose requiring businesses to allow paid sick days for their employees? Press 1 if you support requiring paid sick days. Press 2 if you oppose requiring paid sick days, or press 3 if you're unsure or neither. So again, I'm going to read that question off, and Danielle, I'm sure, can share a little bit more about the issue and how important it is. But do you support or oppose requiring businesses to allow paid sick days for employees? Press 1 if you support requiring paid sick days. Press 2 if you oppose requiring paid sick days. And press 3 if neither or you're unsure. And again, you can also press 0 to get in the queue for a question. So give folks a little bit of time to answer that poll, and then we'll jump right back into it. Actually, Danielle, do you want to say a few words about the issue of paid sick days and expand a little bit on, kind of what you're working on there and how that impacts families?
Sure, and I'm sure like everyone on this call understands the need for workers to be able to take time off when them or their loved ones are sick, but it's an issue that we still have to talk about, and we still have to convince our lawmakers is important enough to bring up and to vote on, and we are really grateful to Senator Ananek for sponsoring a bill. But really what we are proposing is we think that every worker should be able to earn an hour of time off for every 40 worked so that they can take off when them or their loved one is sick. If you're anything like me, you understand what it's like to raise young children or even care for a elderly family member. I consider myself part of the sandwich generation where I have young kids, but I also have parents that at times need my help. And, I actually have 2 out of 3 sick ones in my house right now. And when they're sick, I have the luxury of being able to stay home, and I have the benefit of an employer that allows me to stay home and still get paid. But 40% of private sector employees in Michigan do not have access to 1 paid sick days, which means they have to really make a choice between caring for their loved ones or themselves or paying their bills. And that's an impossible decision for anyone to make, obviously. And, we have children going to school sick. We have people working sick, which means when you go to a restaurant, you're often being served by someone who doesn't have any paid sick days and might have to go to work sick just to make ends meet. So we really believe that in a time when benefits are being taken away one by one, we need to ensure that every worker can be financially secure when they have to take care of themselves.
That's a really good point, and it looks like the folks on the call agree with you, because from the responses that we got from this last poll question about requiring paid sick days, 87% of the folks who responded were in favor of it. Only 7% opposed and 7% unsure. So pretty overwhelming in terms of people recognizing the impact that can have on their families, on the economy, on people's health. So thanks again, everyone, for the feedback on that. Just want to remind people 0 is still the number that you can hit to be able to jump in and ask a question or share a story. We've got lots of great questions, so we're going to do our best to try to get everybody worked in on the call tonight, but we're having a great discussion, and just hit 0 if you'd like to join in on that discussion. So we're actually going to go with Michelle from Flint Township now, who has a question for us. So, Michelle, are you still there with us?
Hello. Yes, it's Michelle Jekyll from Flint Township. Jim and Nick, I voted for you, as well as anyways. I don't have a specific question. However, I'm 42 years old and still searching for a perfect job. So, and I have posted my resume online, and I've been trying to get a job in Michigan for about 2 years, ever since I stopped becoming a teacher. So, yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. It's unfortunately a really common that people who are doing the right things and out there trying to find work are just having a really hard time in this economy. So why don't we go? I know that Senator Annick probably has a few thoughts too and has done some work on issues affecting that. But maybe Peter, I know that you said you've done some work on unemployment issue and things like that. Do you have any thoughts? Just in terms, we're going to try to kind of quickly go through it so we can get a lot of other folks in. But do you have any sort of short thoughts on what Michelle can do?
Well, I do, and I want to say, Michelle, good luck as you continue to look for work. We all want jobs. Everyone who's able to work would like a job if they want to thrive. We do believe in having a safety net for those times when people are out of work. Unemployment insurance has been with us for many, many decades. The state of Michigan did cut the maximum of number of weeks that unemployed workers can receive unemployment insurance while they look for work. We believe that was the wrong thing to do. All states up until a couple years ago offered 26 weeks of unemployment insurance, and that's the maximum because we always assume that people are looking for work as they're collecting unemployment insurance. UI never pays as much as the job that they lost. But the state of Michigan cut that down to 20 weeks a couple years ago, and Michigan, at that time that it did that, it had the third or fourth highest unemployment rate in the country, and yet we cut unemployment insurance. So we believe that safety net needs to be there for people as they are looking for work. I don't know if you qualify, Michelle, but I really wish you the best as you look for work. I hope that you can find a job that pays as much as you got as a teacher, and I hope if you cannot, if you need that stopgap unemployment insurance, I hope it's there for you.
Thanks, Peter. And I know that, again, just please hit 0 if you would like to jump in with any other questions. We have a few more that we're going to get to. We're going to get to some poll questions, but 0 is the way to get in the call. And while Peter mentioned that, I don't know if Senator Ananich, I know we've talked in the past a lot about some of the funds for workers to be able to go back and get additional training, and also some interesting things in terms of what we've seen in other states with people who are unemployed and have been sort of discriminated against and not even been allowed to apply for some jobs. And then we've seen other states make progress on that. So I don't know, Jim, if you want to briefly touch on those.
Yeah,
those
and I also think, first again, thanks for being on the call, Michelle. It was good seeing you a few weeks ago at the Syrian picnic, and we spent a lot of time teaching at the same school, and it's a very tough thing. And I think the point you made, Tom, also relates to Rosie's point about folks that are being either overqualified or being discriminated against in many cases because they haven't had a job for a while. And the whole point of applying for a job, more often than not, is either to get a better job than the one you have or get the job that you're looking for. So to discriminate against someone because they have too many skills or they've been unemployed for a while or many other issues just doesn't make sense for the well-being of the economy. Also, it doesn't make sense for folks that are just trying to make it. Yeah, I mean, it's a real tough question, and there's no simple answer to this. But, we have, I think I've heard the governor say a number of times around 70 or 80,000 job openings on some of the state-sponsored websites, and thousands of people, obviously, and tens of thousands, and hundreds of thousands of people unemployed. We have to find ways to get people in training programs so that they can go from being unemployed into the kind of jobs that they really want. But at the same time, for many people, they can't afford the daycare, or they can't afford to stay away from they have to stay home and take care of a sick child or an elderly parent. We have to have a system that's more agile and that works for families in the 21st century. The unemployment system the economy has changed, and the unemployment system and the way we help people and the safety net needs to change with it. That's something that we're going to have to work on for a long time because it's a very, very complex but very good question.
Thanks for sharing that, Jim. And I just want to remind folks again, 0 is the number that we are going to use to be able to get into the call. Please continue asking questions.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, I can hear you. Did we lose Tom?
This is Kevin.
Hello?
Oh, I thought we lost our moderator.
This is Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. I'm sorry. We're just trying to figure out what happened to the moderator. Oh, okay.
Okay, I can hear him now. Yes, I do have a question. I'm retired from General Motors, and my question, you kind of answered it in your call before about my retirement, and how Rick Snyder took my retirement. But I also want to comment on the fact that during that time, if everybody remembers right, he took money from all our libraries, and knowing that an election will be coming up at that time, and people would vote it in with a millage, which they did, which raised all our taxes. It was horrible. And my second question is, how much does the Koch brothers have in running this state? I believe they have a big hand, and Rick Snyder is just like a puppet governor. That's my feelings.
Well, thank you, Kevin. Let me take okay, sorry. You want me to go for the first part, Tom?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Thank you.
Well, I think Kevin made a very good question, but I think it's also important to sort of look at, not just we've heard about specific taxes that have been increased, but sort of the general overall tax shift, which I think is important to note too. I mean, you can look at so many new taxes were placed on new taxes or increased taxes. The new tax with the retirement pension tax, increases in the homestead tax, reductions in the EITC. For those that aren't familiar with that, the Earned Income Tax Credit, which helps working families that are at the lower end of the spectrum, child care tax credits, a number of other things And many of those things, as Kevin mentioned, cuts that happened to schools or libraries had to be made up or were chose to be made up because there's something that we care about as a society at the local level. We've seen local communities raise millages and increase taxes all across the state to pay for their schools, to pay for. We had one here for the MSU extension. All sorts of programs that are having to have local folks pay more in taxes at the local level, as opposed to us paying a little bit more in income tax at the state level. I think us paying our fair share at the state level, we can lower the overall tax burden on individuals, especially at the local level where you have to pay so much more. It was all basically to pay for the $1.8 billion tax cut for corporations, many of which are still allowed to ship jobs overseas and still get tax breaks. So it's a difference of philosophy, I think, when it comes to the way that we tax. I think it's, my general philosophy is that we have a lower tax rate that's equally distributed, relatively equally distributed around, and then folks that have a little bit more money can pay a little bit more, higher percentage, and the folks at the bottom pay a little bit less until they make their way up farther in the scale. It's a simple way that I think helps make sure everyone has an opportunity to succeed, as opposed to sort of giving huge tax breaks to corporations and hoping that they hire people. I think that's a really good question and something we all have to think about.
Thanks, Kevin. That's a good point, and thanks, Senator Ananich. Again, if you want to hit 0, you can jump into the discussion as well. We're gonna actually throw out another poll question right now because we want to talk a little bit about debt and get some feedback from folks in terms of what their thoughts are on debt. So the poll question is, what is your biggest concern personally about debt? Press 1 for student debt. Press 2 for consumer or credit debt. Press 3 for healthcare-related debt. 4 for not enough saved up in case of an emergency. And 5 for all set on debt. So again, for you, what is your concern about debt? 1, that student debt is the top concern. 2 for consumer and credit debt. 3 for healthcare-related debt. 4 for not enough saved up in case of an emergency. And 5 for I'm all set on debt. So if you can give us some feedback on that, that'd be great. We'll give people a chance to dial in and share their thoughts on it. And while we're thinking about that, again, 0 is the way to jump in if you have a question. But I'd like to see if Ross could tell us a little bit more in terms of some of what his group is doing with debt, or any kind of innovative things that you're seeing that help with some of those debt-related concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a program that we are working on at CEDM called Michigan Communities for Financial Empowerment, and it's based off of a national model that was created in New York with a lot of support from the Bloomberg Foundation in New York, and here in Michigan it's got some support from the Mott Foundation over in Flint. And what this really is it's providing one-on-one financial coaching for people in the community. Lansing, Michigan is the first center in the state to do this, and we're looking at expanding that across the state. But debt is one of those issues we hear quite a bit about at these centers, as people are trying to, we're working on policies to help people save, but part of that is cutting down debt, whether it's credit card debt, which is a big one, but more and more we're seeing a lot of debt, medical debt to some degree, and the really growing debt is a student debt. And I think Rosie, I believe earlier, was talking about her son and being overqualified. One of the things that worries me about folks is taking on large amounts of student debt, particularly at for-profit colleges, where you'll get a degree that won't translate particularly well into a field, and you're going to be paying 5 or 6 times as much for that degree than you would for a similar degree from a local community college, or like Mott Community College in Genesee, or some of the other U of M Flint, some of the other good schools over there too. So that's one of the concerns that we see, and it's really when I look at long-term problems, it's going to be the student debt, at least in my opinion, and from what I've been gathering, because that's also the debt that cannot be discharged in a bankruptcy. So it's a very difficult debt to deal with if you become overwhelmed, and if you don't have a job, that debt just kind of rises there. So one of the things that some organizations are working on, and again, kind of on a positive note, are these financial empowerment centers, the good financial coaching, and helping people to get a good balanced budget, but also better utilize the resources they have, find better ways to increase their credit and decrease their debt and increase their income.
Thanks, Ross, for sharing that. And again, if folks want to hit 0, we still have a couple minutes left before we get into a couple of last questions and the closing statement. So 0 is the number to get in one more question or weigh in with any of your thoughts after hearing some of the panelists tonight. And on that question, that poll question that we had, it actually pretty evenly spread out on all the issues that Ross talked about, but 43% was the top answer for not enough saved up in case of an emergency. I think that reflects back on the earlier question about people feeling insecure about their own personal situation. So again, 43% worried that there's not enough saved up in case something happens. I think that's a big issue.
And Tom, I was just going to add to that too. I mean, the emergency debt.
Sure.
One of the other issues that, and this is where the state can do some work, is really around payday lending. That's real short-term debt that is at a very high cost, and we've seen that people who turn to payday lending or payday lenders have a very difficult time getting out of that debt.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And also medical debt is a huge debt that people face. So family medical leave insurance would also go a long way in helping people with that.
Good point. We're going to jump in with another question right now, and then we've got at least one more poll question. And again, if you can hit 0 if you want to ask a question, that'd be great. Cindy from Flint has a question that she would like to ask the panelists. And Cindy, would you like to share your thoughts?
Yes, this is Cindy. I'm calling in regards to crime in the area of Holmes School and Brownell area school. And a lot of shooting goes on, and what can be done about this? I know they laying off cops and this and that, but we need to take care of this crime.
That's a really good point, Cindy. Thanks for sharing that. And I know, why don't we start with some brief comments from Senator Ananich, but then also I'm sure some of the other panelists probably have thoughts on that as well, and how it impacts, how crime impacts, the economic issues and the security issues for all families.
Well, thank you very much, and I thank you, Tom. I think what you just said there at the end, the security issues. I mean, if you don't feel secure in your own home, there's not much else that really matters to people, right? I mean, getting a good job and taking care of your family is really important. But if you don't feel safe, physically safe in your own home, that's a huge issue. And as I said before, I live here in Flint, and I was on the city council prior to going to Lansing, and the amount of officers that we had versus what we have now has just been dramatically reduced, in large part because of there's a lot of issues that we're hearing tonight about the infrastructure and other issues like that. As part of the tax shift, we've seen a continued cut in what they call revenue sharing, which is money the state collects from local government, the state collects from local people, sends it to Lansing, and then with the understanding that it was going to be sent back to communities across the state. Well, that's been dramatically cut over the last decade, and in particular in the last 3 or 4 years, even more so. And that money is used to pay for police officers and firefighters and many of the services that we all expect from our local government. When I first got elected, and Tom said brief, so I promise I'll try to speed it up, but we worked on getting some resources for jail overcrowding, some resources to open up the city lockup, because we were seeing tens of thousands, I believe the number was 48,000 outstanding warrants in Flint and Genesee County. Folks that had 10, 15, 20 warrants in a car when they would get pulled over. We had issues of, we've also worked to get some state police here. I'd rather see local officers, but we'll take whatever help we can get in the meantime. But it's a real big issue. There's no question about it. And we have to do, a lot of the violence that we're seeing in our community is related to drugs and gangs. And I think we need as was mentioned before, a sort of a cooperative approach, local, state, county sheriffs, and even the federal government to come in to help with these issues, because these issues are much, much bigger, and they're really devastating communities. As you mentioned, the Holmes, Brownell area, but it's happening in large parts of the city, and it needs to be addressed.
That's a good point. Again, remember to hit 0 to jump in the call if you have another final question, and also hit 7 if for some reason you didn't get a chance to ask a question or didn't want to follow up that way. You want to give your email address so we can communicate with you that way. It's 0 for the question and 7 for the email. A really good point that Senator Ananich kind of alluded to a little bit, and the other folks have talked about the economic security and having an opportunity for a job, having an opportunity to make good wages. That also impacts crime. We've seen that a lot. Is when people have a chance to have a fair shot at a job and make good wages, that also addresses a lot of the crime issues that are going on in the community. So all this stuff is really intertwined, and that was a great question to go with. Again, 0 if you'd like to ask another question, and we're almost done with the call, so I want to try to squeeze in one more quick poll now that we've had some discussion on these issues and let you weigh in. So the last poll question is, if Michigan lawmakers could address just one issue to help with economic concerns of working families, what should it be? Press 1 for helping raise wages. Press 2 for doing more to create job opportunities. Press 3 for tax breaks for working families. 4 to help deal with the problem of debt. 5 for protecting worker rights. So again, if there was just one issue, and totally understand there's a lot of other issues that could be on this list too, but with these 4 or 5 issues, if there was one that should be a top urgency and priority, 1 would be to help raise wages, 2 to do more to create job opportunities, 3 for tax breaks for working families, 4 to help deal with the problem of debt, and 5 for protecting worker rights. And we're going to jump in with one more question now, and then we'll get to some of the results of that poll question as you have a chance to weigh in. And we're going to go with Elizabeth from Flint, who had a question that she would like to ask the panelists. Elizabeth?
Yes, I would just want to know about the bullying here in Genesee County. I have 3 grandchildren. I had 2 grandchildren that I pulled out of Flint schools and put them into an academy because of the bullying. The school kept telling us that they had it taken care of. Every single day, my 6th grader would cry. My kindergartner would come home in tears. I have a handicapped grandson. He got moved out of the school that he was in. He was put in over at DTM. They have him in a competitive class. He's supposed to be in an IE class. They do not know how to handle him. They tell him to his face he's lying all the time. The child is not lying. They do not listen. I've contacted the Board of Education in Lansing, and nothing is being done. Flint has gone to the dogs. They don't care about these children. They don't care about the education. All they care about is the teachers getting their paycheck on Friday and forget about these children. And I think it's a crying shame. I've been born and raised here, went to all 3 schools here, and I think it's just a terrible, terrible thing how the children are being mistreated.
Elizabeth, I appreciate you. I'm sorry that you're going through that, and I appreciate you taking the time to share some of those thoughts. I know that some of those issues, it sounds like, are maybe a little bit bigger than what we can wrap up on the call. But I know that maybe if Senator Ananich wants to make a brief mention, I know there have been some efforts towards bullying, both legislatively and with some outreach. I believe even from the Attorney General's office, they've instituted new programs, and so I don't know if you want to touch briefly on that, and then we do have to get kind of wrapping up the call here shortly. So just wanted to on that, Ananich.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. And I thank you very much, Elizabeth, for the call and for the points you made. Bullying of any kind is unacceptable. And it's important, no matter what school you go to, that it's taken seriously and that it's addressed. And hopefully, with the change in schools, it's helped address that issue. And in specific issues, maybe we could get your information, and our office could work with you to see if there's anything we can do to help. But on the bigger issue of just sort of bullying in general, it's a huge problem. And you're seeing kids take pretty drastic measures because sometimes they feel completely alone, and we want to make sure that never happens. Obviously, do whatever we can to stop it from happening, I should say. I really appreciate it. It's an important point, and we've passed some legislation to help address the issue, but the schools have to enforce and put in a strong anti-bullying policy, and I think that needs to happen. And I'm very sorry that happened to your children and the grandchildren. Like I said, it's unacceptable, and I'm really sorry about that. And thank you for the call and the point that you raised.
And I think Elizabeth brings up something, and some of the other callers have brought up a lot of really important things in terms of the schools and investing in schools and making sure that kids feel safe in schools, because, you know, ultimately there are a lot of these issues that are related, but ultimately making sure that the kids feel safe and can succeed and have a chance in schools, that's going to be a huge advantage for us to make sure that they can succeed in the economy and contribute to the economy and contribute to safer communities. So the schools are a really, really key point, making them feel safe and making them have a chance to succeed and advance there, whether it be investing in schools or having better policies while the kids are in school. So again, I apologize. We've had a great discussion, and I apologize that we're running out of time here. So for anybody that didn't get a chance to get their question in, we would love to follow up with you, and we hope to do more of these type of events in the future. I wanted to get to just a couple of results from the last poll question about what should be the top focus for Michigan lawmakers. Then we'll go into some very, very brief closing statements from our panelists. We appreciate them being with us. And you can leave a voicemail actually after the call if you have anything to share, any thoughts you didn't get a chance to put on. That would be an opportunity for you as well. If lawmakers could address just one issue to help with economic concerns, the top answer in that was actually 43% said do more to help create job opportunities. I think that's something that we hear a lot about, but folks still obviously want to see more done in that area. The second one being tax breaks for working families, and I think that was at 30%, so that gets a lot to what we discussed earlier in terms of the changes to the tax shifts and the pensions and whatnot. So what I'd like to do now is just give each of the panelists just a short response so they can talk a little bit about their group or maybe a way for people to follow up with them directly. And why don't we go ahead and get started with Ross Yednock, if you'd like to briefly.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Just wanted to thank you and the Senator for having me on the call. And for folks, one thing that I would love to let folks know about tonight in closing is tax season is coming up. I know it's not even, well, we just hit fall. It's the first couple hours of fall, but in no time you'll be seeing ads for a lot of the big box tax shops, and there's a great service out there for folks. It's free. It's run by volunteers that are trained and certified by the IRS. It's the only place you can get certified volunteers or be guaranteed to have certified volunteers by the IRS, because paid preparers, there are no regulations on them currently. But if you go to MichiganFreeTaxHelp.org, that is a way you can find out more about these free services, as well as a bunch of other financial tools to help you save, to help you become more financially self-sufficient, as well as information to contact me or CEDM. But again, that address is MichiganFreeTaxHelp.org. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Ross. We really appreciate that. Peter, would you like to share some ways people can follow up or contact you?
Sure. Thanks, Tom. And thank you, Senator Ananek, for having us on this town hall. This has been a pleasure to hear from some of the constituents up in the Flint area. What I would like to say to people on the call is, state policy, as you know, affects so much of our lives, and I invite all of you to come to our website. We are the Michigan League for Public Policy, and our website is www.mlpp, Michigan League for Public Policy, mlpp.org. So once again, www.mlpp.org. If you want information about what's going on in public policy from the perspective that we really should have a structure and a system in the state that works for everybody, you can find a lot of resources on our website. If you have any questions, feel free to call us at 487-5436. Again, that's 487-5436. And I hope to hear from some of you sometime.
And that is a 517 area code for that, right, Peter?
Yes, thanks, Tom. Yeah, that's 517-487-5436. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. No problem. And Danielle from Mothering Justice.
Yeah, thank you guys again for inviting me on the call. It was a pleasure to be with you today. I think we all, we all just love Michigan so much, and I moved here from Florida, and I choose to be here with you every day. I think every one of us makes the decision every day to stay Michiganders when there's obviously places with better weather and sometimes better job opportunities. But, Mothering Justice is a group of moms who are just making sure that our children are able to make the same decision and they're not forced to leave. So, we just ask that you all, if you're a mother or you're not a mother or you're a grandmother, join Mothering Justice, because even your name helps us really speak on behalf of moms who are really looking to make Michigan the best place to raise a family. So you can join Mothering Justice by going to motheringjustice.org and becoming a member. We're also having a brunch. I know you guys are from the Flint area, but if you make it down to Detroit in late October, we are having a brunch where we're inviting candidates to come and answer some questions about our Mama's Agenda. So we'd love to see you there. But if not, we're also going to have some events in Flint coming up. We're going to start a canvas pretty soon to get out the vote, and hopefully we'll be talking to you on your doors. But otherwise, please just connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'd love to stay in contact with you.
Thanks a lot, Danielle. Really appreciate it. And we'll just finish up with a brief comment from State Senator Jim Ananich.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I want to make sure I thank Danielle and Peter and Ross for coming on and sharing their wisdom and their expertise, and for all of you for listening to this really important discussion. I think, as you heard, there was a wide variety of questions, but I think all of them at the core have to do with individuals and the lack of opportunities for jobs and for people that are just struggling. We see the system so often set up so that once you make a mistake, whether it's in the criminal justice system or whether you get behind in a bill or whether you make something happens and you get laid off, it's so very difficult to get back on your feet again if you're just a working person. And there's a lot of breaks for folks that are towards the upper end of the spectrum. We need to make sure we have a system that's fair and equitable and gives everyone an opportunity to succeed and to have to provide for their family. I think at the end of the day, most people just want to wake up in the morning, work a hard day's work, come home, feel good about themselves, and provide a little bit for their family. And I think that's basically about all people really want to do. And I think that's a system that we should all strive for. And the points that people raise, whether it be infrastructure or the crime or education or so many other points that were raised, were really, really good questions and things that we need to all be working towards and making sure that we support policies that advocate for those issues. And I just want to thank everyone for being on, and hopefully we'll have another one of these again. And again, thank the panelists and Tom for being the moderator. It was a very interesting discussion.
Thanks again, everybody. Sorry we ran a couple minutes long, but I think that it really shows how important these issues are to everyone. So please visit ananich.senatedems.com. That's ANANICH if you'd like to get more information or sign up for the e-news or communicate with Senator Ananich. In addition, you can stay on the line to leave a voicemail with additional comments or questions if you didn't get a chance to tonight. And we really appreciate your participation. Thanks again, and have a great night.